Howdy, and welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show, a podcast for women who want to up-level their life, manifest those dreams, and just live happier. If you have vision boards, love energy work, are into psychics, and feel you are meant for something more in this life, then this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lorraine Toth, an award-winning filmmaker, author, Reiki master, photographer, and creative genius who also loves to vision board. And I am here to bring you all of the tips and tricks to help you up-level your life. Now let's go and hop on that happy train. Hello, and welcome back to the Choose a Happy Day podcast. And today, I have to say, I met someone just this morning who was like looking in a mirror from me 20 years ago. And her story, I am so excited to share with you guys. Welcome to the show, Annie Berdar.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, this is going to be fantastic. So Here's the hook, guys. Like, imagine you're 22 and you decide to start a business. And that business now has 13 franchise locations. Okay. So when I met this girl, I was like, wow, she's me. And we both have that same kind of like fire sign energy where we will stand on a cliff and we will jump off the cliff. And we have that motto of, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that's true?
Yeah. I think, for me, like, especially in the beginning, it was like, I know I want to do this. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yes.
And I still operate with that same mentality today.
And how many years has it been?
So it's been 6 officially, which is, it feels like a long time to me, but in the grand scheme of things, 6 years is really nothing for what I've done. So so I'm excited to share my story. Thanks.
Oh, yes. All right. So bit of background, you own Bear.
Yes.
Bear Blends.
Yep, I own Bear Blends. Yep, I'm one of the founders, and I created the entire operational foundation for the brand. I created the entire menu, the food, and it's all based in science and nutrition theory because my background is in biochemistry and I have a master's in nutrition science.
I just can't wait to dig into all these little nuggets. When I meet fellow entrepreneurs, I always want to see like what makes them tick, what makes us different, and what makes you able to jump off the cliff, right?
Yeah.
Right, so let's dig into that in case you guys want to be like her.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So you also teach hot yoga too.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. And I still do that. And that was really important to me. Like, I think sometimes when entrepreneurs start their business and they think, I have to give up every single thing that I'm doing outside of starting this business. I didn't want that to be true for me. I did take a little hiatus, like in the very beginning, I took a little break, but I always knew that I wanted to go back to teaching because I love yoga and everything that like meditation and mindfulness and breathing has given me in my life. And I knew that I couldn't continue to operate without that. Right. So I actually still teach because I love the practice so much and I really want to share it with other people. And I thought that if I wasn't teaching, I probably wasn't going to be doing it anymore. So it was really important to me to like still be present in that sense in the yoga studio. So 3 times a week at the hot yoga spot. Yes. You guys got to see her. Yeah. So, and as an entrepreneur, you can't work and then cup, right? So like we were talking earlier about staying centered with meditation and mindfulness. And can you speak on that? Yeah, it's so important. I take time to meditate almost every day, even if it's just for 15 to 30 minutes. I try to isolate myself. I focus on my breathing. And I just allow myself to almost clear my mind and just like land in a present moment where I can just be like by myself and just like in, without the chaos of my day, just kind of like let it like, go right away. Just focus on my breathing, calm down for a little bit, know that no matter what's going on, I'm okay. I can find my center. I can always revert back to my breath. And when I tune into my breath, I feel like I'm I'm holding the power of what I'm doing. And then I take that and I translate it into my day to day. So if I ever feel overwhelmed with my businesses or with anybody I'm interacting with at any given point
Which
in
can totally
time,
happen when you're a business owner.
it happens all the time. I just revert back to the breath, even in those moments. I'm like, okay, just like, take a breath, calm down. So, yeah, I think meditation is really important. And I also think that movement is really important. Like I have my own morning routine. Like I have to work out. I have to do yoga. I have to drink X amount of water before I like eat breakfast. I'm one of those people.
Oh, you do? I do the same thing. How many ounces is yours in the morning?
Mine is always 32.
No way. That's what I drink. I drink
really?
4 8-ounce glasses of water before I do anything.
Oh my God.
It's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it really is. I mean, so your stomach at any given time can hold 32 ounces at any given time. So I always think like I'm going to fill my cup, my internal cup up, before I invite anything else in that's like a solid food. For me, somehow that just makes sense. And
I love it. It's like, for me, it's like the analogy of I want to water my flowers, before I add in the potting soil and extra stuff on top of it. Yeah. And like overnight, you kind of dehydrate, right? So I want to wake up and glow.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's so important. You gotta rehydrate.
Get your glow on.
Yeah. Get your glow on in the morning. It's important.
Perfect. All right. So my first question for you was that you traveled to over 20 countries.
Yeah.
And I was curious reading that, like what place seemed the happiest and what have you noticed, in different countries as far as way of life?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is such a great question. So I just want to preface this with my family lives in Budapest, Hungary. So only my parents are in America now, but they're both immigrants. And I think that really allowed me to travel at a young age confidently. Like my parents would, they didn't have a lot of money when I was younger. And so they would send me to Budapest for the summers to be with my grandma because it was actually cheaper than childcare.
Oh, yeah.
And and so that's why I've been to so many places, because once you're in Europe, it's really easy to kind of bounce around. And I would do that with my cousins, and then I would make friends when I was there. So that really allowed me to get a unique perspective on life at a young age, because it allowed me to see how different countries operated culturally from a very young age. And I was able to see the vast differences between our culture here in America and, the cultures in different parts of the world. And I think I have to say, so I actually did a volunteer trip in El Salvador. Which is, I don't know if you're unfamiliar with it.
I have no idea where that is.
It's in South America, and it's very third world. Like it's very, very poor country. And the people that I met were the kindest people that I've ever met, and they had next to nothing. And I think for me, it was really eye-opening, because I was like, there are these people that they really don't have much. I mean, they lived in like very, very tiny houses, if they even had houses. Like it was a very simple way of life. They loved to get together, and they focused on making food as a group, like as a family unit, and sharing what they made with each other. And that was like the big event of the day. And it really brought them together, and it was so beautiful. And it was just really eye-opening, like these people were so happy with what they had, and they were able to celebrate something that we, I think, take for granted a lot of the time, which is just something as simple as like having a meal with your family.
Yes. And it was probably nice for like earthy raw food, right?
Yep.
Like,
natural food. Yeah, it was mostly like rice and beans, and then they made these like I honestly don't even remember what they were called, but they were almost like these savory pancakes. And they were made with like beans, and they were so delicious. Everything they made was so good. But yeah, they were like the kindest people, and they just seemed to be so happy.
Yes.
And here we are, like it just puts everything into perspective for you. Like we're in this country where we have almost everything available to us. Yeah. So unhappy.
So do you try to travel now just to gain perspective?
So it's so interesting because so when my fiance and I got together, like traveling was really big for me. I've always, since I was little, I've always tried to escape and like go places. I remember when I was in college, I worked 2 jobs and I would save all my money and I would just spend it all on traveling. And every break that I had or like any opportunity I had to be in a different country, I would be. And at that point in my life too, I was actually dating somebody who was foreign. So it was easy because we would be able to travel together. And yeah, I've just always admired how different cultures shared their culture. Like I always admired how people were so different, and I loved food in particular, and just like the different habits that people had. You know, when you go to like Spain or other countries in Europe, they have siesta in the middle of the day, and they take that time right for themselves.
We need that in America
for sure. So yeah, I've always appreciated it. And then when my fiance and I got together, he's not as well traveled as I am, and you know, I was born in America, but I believe I'm like fundamentally European because my entire family is in Budapest and I speak fluent Hungarian. And
can you just please say something to me? Because my last name is Hungarian, for those of you that don't know.
Yeah. What would you like me to say?
Can you say happy full moon?
Boldog az egész évnap.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Because we're recording this on a full moon. So
I love it. Perfect. Happy full moon.
Happy full moon, everyone. That's perfect. Yeah. All right. So did you notice that Americans, part of the question was that, you know, I noticed by traveling to Costa Rica and that Americans are much more fast paced and not present.
Yeah.
Do you notice that too when you travel?
Yeah. All the time. I actually, I mean, especially like for me, it really stood out in Spain and in Italy. Like I studied abroad for a little bit. So I got to spend a good amount of time in Florence, Italy. And everybody was so chill. Yeah. They were so happy. They just, you know, we would go to class and after we'd go and like drink with our professors because they just like wanted to have a good time. It was great.
I feel like this is a travel
sponsor. Yeah. 100%.
Oh, that's perfect. All right. So my next question was how to connect to your higher self, like actual takeaway tips for our audience so they can have the best 2025.
Yeah. Oh, best takeaway tips. I think I'm a planner, you know, I think I definitely feel like when I don't plan every second of my day. I don't know if I know some people do that and that's great, but I don't really think that that's realistic for me. But I think when I plan the things that are most important to me, like my morning routine.
Yes.
And what I'm going to eat for the entire week, because I care so much about my diet and like what I'm bringing into my body. When I can plan my meals or like my grocery list, things like that, I feel like that sets my week up for success.
Yes.
And I think like it helps me like allow for the time to focus on the things like my job that require so much of my time and energy.
Yes.
And then I'm able to be successful in both of those worlds. Like I'm able to be successful with my personal health because I prioritize it and I plan for it. And then I think that allows me the time to be successful with my businesses as well. So I think my biggest piece of advice is like really reflect on what are those things that you're currently struggling with that you need to spend some time to maybe plan out a solution for, and then just stick to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then have those non-negotiables, like for you, meditating.
Yep.
Right.
Meditating, doing yoga. I have to work out. Like if I have a week where, so in addition to yoga, I also go to Orange Theory. I just love their workout. And I have to go at least twice a week. And there are definitely times when like, you know, life happens and a meeting runs late and I can't, you know, I can't work out.
Especially in the food business.
Right. Yeah. And so sometimes I miss the workouts, but when I do, I don't feel as good. And I'm like, you know, I don't really want to go another week where I don't feel good, you know? So I just try to prioritize those non-negotiables for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
And that also kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier with like your nutrition, right? And disease equals disease, you know?
Yeah.
And you and I function at such high levels and like we're like go nonstop, but we wouldn't be able to do that unless we took care of ourselves with what we eat and drink and put into our bodies, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I think this might be a little plug for what I'm planning next.
Yes,
but
oh my gosh, I can't wait for this. So let's dive into that. It feels like a great segue.
Yeah. So I obviously I own Bear Blends, and we really focus on health and wellness with my current business. But it is customer facing, it is food service, and being that my background was really focused in academia, I really miss that. And so I'm planning on starting my own podcast where I interview researchers, like the top researchers in their field with regard to like nutrition science and health science, interview some doctors, and just have those really important conversations around health and wellness to uncover a lot of the, I guess, chaos that's currently in this space of nutrition, and, just focus on like the cold hard facts and just share them with people that want to hear them. And then, allow that to kind of turn into its own nutrition wellness brand. And I really do want to start a clinic one day. So
I can so see
my
this
ultimate
for her.
goal.
So like, if I was on Shark Tank right now, I'd be like all in on you. I see this so clearly, your future.
Thank you.
I'm very excited for this.
And I've even, I know we talked about it earlier a little bit, but I've even worked with a couple of people one-on-one that I've really helped through their own nutrition and wellness journeys. And so that for me is a lot of the validity as to why I should be doing it, because I have those testimonials from people that I've really helped with their own issues, whether they wanted to go more plant-based or just learn how to lose a little bit more weight, or help them with their gut issues, or they were dealing with a chronic malady that they just needed advice about. I definitely have worked with people in that capacity, and I think that people want this kind of information.
They do. They need it. You know, and that's why I wrote my first book, because I was that person that needed help. Maybe there's someone out there listening like I was with asthma, and I was taking inhalers and going to the ER and the urgent care for breathing treatment. And then fast forward, like I looked and I was like, oh, I'm allergic to gluten. Okay, it's causing inflammation in my body. So I went from breathing treatments and an inhaler every single day and massive medications just to breathe to nothing in the last 13 years now. Because I stopped gluten. So
which is awesome.
Which
is awesome. And like, and I guess this is kind of like for my own research. So I'm going to ask you a question now, this
is not on script, guys.
This is completely off script. But like in that situation, you went the route that most people go, right? They look to the medical professionals. And I'm not saying, and I think that there are a bunch of medical professionals that are great and they know exactly what they're doing and they can at least point you in the right direction. But I feel like so many of us are failed by traditional medicine. Did you feel like going through that
I was like, this doesn't make sense. And to me, I always use the analogy, it's like putting a band-aid on the problem instead of actually solving what's causing the problem. And that was the way I looked at that prescription medicine, when all I needed to do was stop eating gluten. And I went from, not being able to make it up a flight of stairs to I ran a full marathon, which is 26.2 miles.
That's amazing.
So like, if that's not a testimonial to like food affecting your body, I don't know what is.
And like probably everything else that you were focused on too, like the mindfulness and all of that you're so focused on. I feel like that all plays a role. Like it really is like lifestyle as a whole. And I think sometimes people try to isolate like, oh, it's just working out or it's just nutrition. Like no, it's such a holistic thing.
It is. And like we were talking about earlier, with energy, like we both had little, I don't know if they were illnesses or non-wellness last week. And mine was like my throat, I had no voice. I literally had no voice. It was like scratchy. I was like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. I tried to talk, nothing came out. And then I was telling you that I had recently entered a relationship and I thought it was like a throat chakra, blockage, like an energy blockage. And so I went and had Reiki and cleared it up. I went in the E system, Samsara, and boom, I'm better. So
it's like an energy, too, right? It's I 100% believe in like manifestation in energy. Like I believe that what you put out there, you get back 100%. I am such a chronic manifester. I have like a little story. I have to share this.
Too. I love manifest. That's like one of the pillars of the podcast.
Yes, which I love. Okay, Janet told me actually that you're a big manifester. So I have two stories real quick, briefly. Yeah. So my first one is, I feel like I'm more of a manifester with like relationships. I have two good friends that I was friends with in college. And I knew that they had like a little something going on, between the two of them. And I just like manifested the fact that at some point they would get together and I would officiate their wedding. And I officiated their wedding this past summer. Really? And it was 10 years later. And then
this is a Hallmark movie.
I manifested like what his job was going to be. And I ended up helping him with that I've known these people for like 10 plus years. Yeah. So just like every little aspect of our lives, I've kind of like manifested with them, and it's just like come true.
So are you also maybe like a dating guru?
I might be, because I actually have another friend who she was single for a little while and I knew this guy, and I was like, she pushed back a little bit like initially, and she's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, my friend lives in Albany. I live in Saratoga. I was like, I need you to move to Saratoga. This guy lived in Saratoga. So selfishly, I was like, I'm manifesting this for myself. So I was like, you're going to fall in love and you're going to move to Saratoga. And now they're dating, and he lives in my building in Saratoga. And I'm just like waiting for the moment when they move in together. Wow.
This was also off script and very informative because I'm going to volunteer myself.
Maybe that's my next business, actually. Screw the nutrition.
And all go together.
Yeah, seriously.
We need to look and feel good for our new date that you're going to provide us.
Perfect.
This is amazing.
So funny. Yeah.
I love off script.
So anyway, big manifester. But yes, keep going.
Me too. Okay, perfect. Now I forgot all the questions.
I'm so sorry.
All right. So you spoke of moving meditation, and if you can just explain that, because there are people out there that have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
And how they can incorporate that to live more happy and mindful lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I was talking about yoga before, and that's really what I consider moving meditation. Okay. So it's not just, I think when people think about like exercise, it's obviously, you're moving, and like whether you're performing, aerobic exercise, most exercise ends up kind of being aerobic. Like even if you're not only doing cardio, you're lifting weights, but like you're, I think there's something really powerful about combining the breath work with the movement. And I think that's obviously what the entire yoga practice is really. Foundation is moving meditation. It's you're breathing, but when you're inhaling, you're moving in a certain way. When you're exhaling, you're moving in a certain way, and it almost like marries the meditation through like your entire body when you're moving. And I kind of love the way that I feel after that. Like when you've perfected that art of like breathing a certain way while you're moving a certain way. And then when you add the heat in hot yoga, it just like, you're like basically exhaling all of like the toxicity in your body is kind of how I feel.
Yes.
So that's why I think that like exercise is so important. And if you can do any type of exercise, that's great. But when you get to that next level of like moving with mindful breath, it like really changes the game.
It can change it. So if there a person out there listening who's like, I'm not going to sit on a yoga mat and do for 15 minutes. They can do moving meditation.
Yeah, and I think honestly, it might be easier for some people that are like, oh, I really kind of want to get into yoga, but I'm not really like spiritual. Like I'm not too spiritual when it comes to the yoga practice. Like I know a little bit of the Sanskrit, but not really. I'm not like out there, chanting words that people can't understand. Like for me, it's more about like, okay, I'm going to move from this pose to this pose, and I'm going to connect it with the breath, and I'm just going to feel really good as I stretch and I build a little strength. Like I think some people who are interested in yoga, but are more into like traditional workouts might actually benefit from more of those like core power vinyasa kind of yoga practices, because it really is like workout based,
it is.
but
I sweat every time I do it.
Yeah. So you feel like you did something after, but you also feel good because you were breathing. Yeah. I was breathing.
And I clear my mind too.
Yeah.
It's like amazing. Yeah. I do the P90X at home. And I'm just like at the end, I'm even sore.
Yeah.
The vinyasa. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Good. So people,
and you wouldn't
sound
think.
like my ideal yoga teacher. Like, cause you know,
you're not
like,
because I'm going to kick your butt and we'll have a great time.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Wait, you should come.
I know. I need to. I haven't been in years.
Yeah. Come at 6:30 Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the hot yoga spot in Saratoga. 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah.
We have a little late.
Yeah.
Teach yoga.
No.
Yeah. All right. So my next question was ways to live a happier life. So if you can maybe talk on like, how do they know if they're on the right path? And maybe an example of how you knew you were on the right path.
Yeah.
At 22, like, oh, I'm going to go open a business that's going to turn into a franchise. Like, how did you know?
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I think I think the simple answer to that is I didn't know what it was going to be. Mm-hmm. What I did know was that at the time I was deciding between a couple different career paths. Mm-hmm. I wanted to pursue medical school. A part of me wanted to work in research. A part of me wanted to work in clinical nutrition. And I started thinking about what my like core values were and what I really wanted to accomplish with whatever career path I chose. And ultimately I landed on this idea of I just want to help people as quickly and efficiently as possible. Okay. And as I started to dive into medical school and the medical field, I started to learn more about what doctors actually do on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, a lot of them just kind of run through patients like crazy. You know, I mean, obviously they do incredible things. Doctors save lives. That's awesome. But I think a lot of the time it's like a business transaction. And I thought, you know, I don't really, you know, there isn't a lot of focus on like preventative medicine, or at least I still don't think there is. I think there might be a little more than there was when I was thinking about it, but I didn't love that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do the research thing because the research is where like the information comes from. Right. Right. You're like, oh, the research is the future. Like I'm going to do the research and I'm going to publish the papers and that's how I'm going to change the world. And then I was like, well, it really depends on what industry is funding the research. And it really depends on where the money's coming from and like who wants the research out there. And then I was like, well, I'm a small little nothing in this big world of big pharma and big companies that can pay for these studies. And I just, that didn't seem authentic enough to me. So I was like, I don't want to go that route. And then, so I was going to go the clinical nutrition route, and it seemed very similar to the doctor route where it was just like, you have to follow these certain protocols and you have to do these certain things. And so ultimately I was like, well, I know that people need to eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm going to create a product that is purely based on fruits and vegetables, convince people to eat them. And I think I'm going to make a bigger impact that way. And so in my core, I knew when I made that decision that like, I don't know if this is going to be $1 million business. I don't know if I'm going to turn this into a franchise. I don't even know if I'm going to open 2 locations. Yeah. Right. But I knew that I believed in what I was doing. And I thought that if nothing else, I'm going to give this a try. And I know in my core that I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. That's good for people. That's good for the planet because we're vegan and we divorce animal agriculture, which is one of the biggest environmental offenders. And I was like, you know what? If nothing else, like, karma's gonna save my ass.
Give yourself a pat on the back
because it's good. Yeah. So I think ultimately, like when you are really passionate about something, people follow passion. Yes. And when you're authentic, people follow authenticity. And I think at some point, like even if you could fake it a little bit in the beginning, you really can't fake it long term.
No, and you certainly wouldn't have been able to fake it to 13 now.
Right. Like, so quickly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So and growing. We're still growing. Like
and to anyone who doesn't know, this is extremely hard. Like
it's so hard.
Done.
Thank you.
You're so young, right? Are you 30 now?
No, I'm 28.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. This is amazing. Like it totally
don't age me.
It's like looking at my past. I just love it. This is so inspiring. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's gonna be amazing.
It's still hard. Like I don't want anybody to be fooled. Like I'm not sitting here like, I did it, like I did it, but I'm still doing it and I'm still gonna do it. Like I'm on the path. Like I want to grow to 100 locations and I really want to, I want to continue to grow this business, but I really want to also focus on what we were just talking about because I do think that like the educational piece is missing.
It is.
And I think I'm somebody that can actually make a difference in that regard. And when I initially started this business, I didn't even think about like the podcasting and the business of like personal branding and the business of information because that really wasn't a thing 6 years ago. Like, I mean, it was just starting, I think, but it wasn't as big as it is now. Like the opportunities weren't really, I mean, I guess the opportunities were big because nobody was doing it. Right.
Yes,
but like, I guess it just didn't really cross my mind. And now I feel like I have this experience of being a successful entrepreneur and the amount of people that I've communicated with through the last 6 years of my life has really driven me to this decision. Like I've worked with people, I've communicated with the general public. I communicate with the general public on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And the confusion is still out there. And I think I can really help. So
yes, the world needs you and they can listen and learn on their drive to work. And the way that I saw you was like, okay, it's like you're the mama bird, right?
Yeah.
And you're like taking in all this data and information, scientific stuff. And then you're like kind of chewing it up, bite-sized pieces, and then regurgitating it to the baby bird who is like me, who has no science-based mind. You're like totally right brain creative,
Yeah.
And making it understandable.
Yeah.
So it's like relatable instead of being like, textbook, scientific.
Like so digestible.
Yes.
And I feel like that analogy is such a picture perfect like analogy of what I want to do because I'm literally like chewing your food so you can digest it. Yeah.
Right. And then we can take it and actually apply it to our lives and understand it because I don't understand medical books. But it's so necessary to help them live a happier and more higher quality of life.
And just like believe the evidence, right? Because I think there are so many people out there who actually like some of these people have legit credibility, like they are medical doctors, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're reading the research and interpreting the research the right way and not putting their personal biases behind what they're sharing with their group of people that are following them.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they have all the answers. So like the way that I really want to convey this information is I want to sit here and say, okay, this is what the literature says. This is what it's saying. Let's interpret it together.
Okay.
And really not say like, this is what this is saying. And so this is the definite yes or no that you have to be doing, like let's bring in the experts. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about it. And let's see what the science says. And like, let's really explore all avenues before we make a decision. And a definitive decision, I don't think is ever possible in science.
No. And I like that you're taking it away from like, this is just the blank way we're going to treat this issue. Like if someone's got a sinus issue, it's like, oh, here, take some Sudafed. No, like, let's like, how's your air quality, right? Like, how's your food intake? Are you smoking? Are you sleeping? Like, let's picture this.
Right? Are you meditating? Are you focusing on your breath? Like,
are you happy in your relationship? Like,
yeah, they do. Okay. Yeah, 100%.
All right, so that was a very long-winded
yes.
question and answer. Hopefully now you guys know. So have you seen a correlation between eating healthy and happiness?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, so can you give me like a key takeaway example?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna speak to an example just from my fiance, actually. So I already told him. I was like, you gotta tune in. So when I met him, he had like chronic gut issues.
Okay.
He ate a lot of like processed food. He ate more candy than I've ever seen like an adult male eat. Like it was crazy. Like he would eat candy, sugar, but also he wasn't really eating carbohydrates. Like he ate a lot of like grilled chicken and vegetables. Like he was a student athlete back when he was in college. And I feel like what the dietitians back then were pushing were like low carb, high protein, like basically just eat chicken and broccoli every day, and so he like developed that mentality. He really wasn't eating healthy carbohydrates. He didn't eat a lot of plants. He just really was meat focused and then would eat like junk food.
And how was his energy level? Like what was his full picture here?
I would say like he was energetic, but he would get tired like later in the day for sure. He prioritized working out, which I liked. Like him and I aligned on that when we first met. We were both like, we like to wake up and work out. Like we do it together. So I would say like from that sense, he was pretty energetic, but he would definitely get like tired throughout the day. His
and can
focus.
You just define like gut issues. So someone listening is like, okay, I have that too.
I have that. Yeah. So he was pretty extreme. He was on Pepcid and omeprazole, which are two different drugs that can help with like bloating. So if you have a lot of bloating, it kind of just helps like combat the symptoms of bloating. And sometimes people get prescribed omeprazole when they have like acid reflux. So
okay.
Yeah, so it was like he had some like stomach acid issues. And he was always uncomfortable. Like his bowels were always uncomfortable. He went to several different doctors. They did different tests. They did like a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. So they went from both ends. It's like, to like see what was going on. They, couldn't find anything, right? And like it was crazy because like the packet that they gave him was to put him on like a FODMAP diet. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's basically
I have no idea what a
FODMAP. Yeah.
FOD?
MAP. Yeah. FOD MAP. So it's basically like a bunch of different nutrients and different foods that could potentially be triggering for the gut. So they have you basically like eliminate these things in your diet to see like, what could potentially be causing problems. Like the idea is you eliminate certain foods and then you reintroduce them after a certain period of time. Something that like I learned in, my my master's studies, and
I learned that too 13 years ago. It was called the Elimination Diet by Dr. Mark Hyman.
Yes.
And that's how I learned that peanut butter sometimes triggered headaches because and peanut butter is a huge migraine trigger.
Yeah, certain like components of the could be triggering to people. But I think the problem with like eliminating certain foods is that you're really like you're isolating one specific food when we really eat in a matrix format, right? Like you're not just like, oh, I only eat this one food at a time. So I just the elimination diets really didn't.
All right. So
anyway, so
your fiance is the FOD now.
So he didn't actually do it because I was like, I think this is a waste of time personally.
I love it.
I was like,
no,
yeah, no, we're not
new rules here.
New rules. I was like, we're gonna try something different.
No.
And I was like, let's eliminate processed food and let's start incorporating more fiber into your diet, because what I think the biggest issue for him was, and I don't think he had, I think his gut bacteria was shot. I think that because he was only feeding his gut bacteria certain types of foods, like the high sugar foods, low fiber foods, I think he started having gastrointestinal issues because of the byproducts that his gut bacteria was producing. And so I basically just put him on more of a plant-based diet. I had him cut out all the processed junk foods.
And can you just define what that is? So
sure.
Do you mean like potato chips? What are we talking
about? Yeah, no. So a large variety of fruits and vegetables, like a bunch of different plants incorporated into the diet so that his bowels started to get introduced to different types of fibers, because different plants have like different fibers and different nutrients that are really good for your gut health. And I promise this comes full circle because gut health is very much so linked to mental health. And there's a lot of research out there. Yeah. Like if you have me back, maybe we could dedicate an entire episode just to that.
Yes.
Because it's huge. There's like a large body of evidence that talks about that.
And on your podcast.
Yes. Oh my God, let's do
that. How gut health and happiness not be your guest.
Yes. Okay. Oh my God, let's do that. Okay. Anyway. So I just was like, listen, let's do like a 90-day cleanse basically, and just see if it makes a difference. Within 30 days, he was off of Pepcid. Within 60 days, he was off from omeprazole, and he no longer had any of the bloating, any of the discomfort. He started getting more mental clarity, and now he's like literally fine. Like, this was months and months ago. So now we're probably like 6 months into him eating more of like a whole food plant-based diet. Yep. And like he does sometimes eat chicken occasionally. Like if we go out to dinner, sometimes he'll like order a steak or like a burger. Like he does sometimes eat those things, but at home, I really focus on a wide variety of plants in his diet, and I feed him mostly plants. Like we don't eat meat. And I think that introducing him to those foods has really helped. The gut microbiome and just like the diversity that he has in there, which has helped with everything.
So now he's not bloated. He probably has no more brain fog, right?
No more brain fog. He's not taking the medication, which is huge.
Okay. You need to hear this.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like literally, like he doesn't have the bloating. Like he feels so much better.
Okay. And now that just brought to mind a question, because my friends always ask this when I tell them I'm like, all right, tried gluten for Erica. They're always like, well, I tried it for 2 weeks, but you said it was, you wanted him to do it 3 months?
90 days.
90 days. So is that necessary to see the changes?
I think that like most of the time, so the turnover in your like your cell turnover, the most of your cells will turn over, especially in your gut, in 90 days. So I do think that like you should stick to something for that amount of time to see results. And I think everybody's different. Like people experience different levels of discomfort, and it really depends on like where your baseline is, like where you're starting, how much fiber you're eating, because what I also know happens to a lot of people is like they'll start eating more fiber and then they get like horrible discomfort because their body isn't used to it.
Know how to eliminate it, right? Like,
Right. I mean, so basically like the way it works is like very layman's basic terms, like you're digesting food and the bacteria in your gut will work to break down certain types of fiber. But if you don't have those bacteria in your gut already, then you have to lay the foundation for that bacteria. And if your body doesn't know how to break it down because it doesn't have the bacteria in it to break certain foods down, you're going to have discomfort. So it takes a little bit of time. Do it slowly.
I can't wait for your podcast. You need to talk about this. Also, just so they know, like a lot of prescription drugs fills your gut flora, right? And like
antibiotics
and the bad, like the good bacteria, right?
And so like if you take any type of antibiotic, it kills everything in your gut, like the good and the bad.
I refuse to take it. So all right. So I was just, my last question was, did your drive come from your immigrant parents? And, you know, to have the drive that you have, it's not common. So where does that come from?
I think I answer this question a lot.
Oh, you do?
With this, like whenever I do an interview, like I usually answer it with my parents because, I think when you are a kid and you see financial hardship and what it's like to live with parents who are constantly working so hard just to give you like new clothes or food, or you know, like they were always working and they were working so hard, and they basically instilled in me that like if you don't work for it, you're not going to get there. Like there is no plan B, you know what I mean? Like you can't just fall back on anything. You have to work for it. So I think initially, yes, it was my parents, and then I think as I continued to work harder, I almost became like self-motivated because I was like starting to see, you know, if I do work hard, like I will, and if I am consistent, I will keep growing and I will keep, you know, seeing the results that I want to see. And so I think now I'm kind of like motivated by my parents. I'm motivated by my successes that I've had. I'm motivated by my customers. I'm motivated by the people who have said that Bear has changed their lives. And I love that. I'm like so grateful for that. So I think I'm motivated by all the people who've reached out to me saying that I should start a podcast and I should do this.
Thank you for whoever reached out to her.
That
helped put us in contact.
Yeah. I know.
Like your big sister now.
So, which I love.
Take you under.
And I'm so grateful. I really am. Like so much knowledge has come from you. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I think it's important to also just like, you know, if they're maybe like you, maybe some 20-year-old or 21-year-old just listening and they're like, I want to be like her.
Yeah.
But you have that strong foundation, right? Like that center, that mental clarity in order to be able to function at this level.
So, my dad actually did Bikram hot yoga when I was little, and he bought like this little space heater. And he had like the book on Bikram yoga at the time, and he would just do it in our basement, and I would do it with him. And I was like 9 years old when I got introduced to that. So I really think, like, honestly, I really think that like yoga, being present, the mindfulness, the breathing, like that, the motivation from my parents, like, I really think that like my foundation is just, I just want to do what I want to do, and I want to do it well. You know,
you're so like focused and centered and authentic. It just totally conveys.
Thank you.
Like, like solid base. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see huge things in her future. So I just want to say I call that here. Shark Tank, if you're listening, invest in her, because wow.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So when I'm the next Oprah, I'm totally going to invest in you.
Thank you.
Your center, which I envision like this huge spa. Like, you know, I'm talking like Mirabeau spa, like huge.
And like work with people on like a one-on-one level, and like learn about them as individuals, and, you know, like really learn about like their holistic health. You know, what is your at-home life like? Where do you come from? What are your genetics like? Let's look at your blood work now and see how we can maybe modify different risk factors identified by your blood, you know, and how do we do that in a holistic way? And I also think, like, I'm not sitting here saying that there isn't a space for pharmacology. I think the two have to work together. You know, I think like there is X amount of prevention, and then when you absolutely need the pharmaceuticals, I think science is amazing. Like the advancements that we've made in medicine are incredible. And I think that they can absolutely help people. But do I think that every single person needs to take Ozempic? No. You know, so I think like
just like your fiance, like, are you eating candy for dinner? Right?
Literally. Are you eating ice cream every night?
Hi.
Please don't.
Oh my gosh, I know so many people that do that. Sorry. All right. So clearly we need to have a second interview and talk about all this. Happiness and food. But thank you so much for coming in. And she's promised to let me know when her podcast is up so I can link it and share the word.
Yes.
And then I will be a guest on it, and we will talk about gut health and happiness and all of those lovely things, right?
Yes. For now, you can follow me through Bare Blends, through my personal social media. Yeah, it's BareBlends, Bare Blends. And then my personal Instagram right now is just Annie Berdar. And I'm sure you can probably link that somewhere.
We'll spell it out. So
ANNIE. Yep. BERDAR is my personal Instagram.
And there's no hyphen or space.
Nope.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can spell that. All right. Perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Annie, for being here.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see all that you're gonna manifest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Love this.
Thank you for listening, everyone. And remember, happiness is a choice, so choose a happy day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. To stay connected to me, please visit my website at chooseahappyday.com. And at the bottom, just sign up for my email list to be notified of any upcoming events, book launches, as well as new podcasts. Until next time, have a happy day.